Hey, it's Noah from American Muscle, and what I have here in front of me is Cobb's cold air intake for the 2015 to 2023 S550 EcoBoost Mustang. Now this intake is the perfect choice for an S550 owner who's looking to dip their toes into some performance modifications without sacrificing the fuel efficiency and reliability, really the charm, of your dailyable EcoBoost motor. The name of the game with cold air intakes is getting rid of factory restrictions. Cobb's cold air intake system really opens up the pathway for air coming into your engine, resulting in a happier spooling turbo, awesome induction noise, and an overall more enjoyable driving experience. There's also this air box included that will keep intake temps down. The filter comes pre-oiled, so right out of the box you're protected from smaller particulates floating around the engine bay. This filter is also reusable, so when this guy gets dirty, you can just clean it and re-oil rather than buying a new filter. In my opinion, what makes this intake stand out among others is the overall construction of it. Everything here is aluminum, not plastic. An aluminum intake is a great choice because you get a very strong build compared to plastic, but still get the excellent heat dissipation that you wouldn't see with steel. The intake tube itself is 3 inches in diameter and it's mandrel bent, so the air has a smooth and direct pathway to your turbo with no ribs or joints. Great news! Gone are the days of finishes fading due to heat under the hood. Everything on this intake is covered in a durable, textured black powder coat. Now let's talk price. Cobb's cold air intake comes in right around the $450 mark. I think that's a really great value just because it's neck and neck price-wise with similar intakes, but it boasts that aluminum construction, while most others in its class are just plastic. Considering the perks and the quality you get for the price, I'd say this is a great buy. Really, what it all boils down to in the end is the install. All the parts you need to bolt this onto your S550 and drive away are included in the kit. This intake system is a simple bolt-on job. It doesn't require any fabrication or tuning. That's going to put this install at 1 out of 3 wrenches of difficulty. This really should be an easy job for anybody, and I'd count on spending about an hour on it. Now Cobb does recommend pairing the intake with an access port tuner to maximize the performance gains this intake has to offer. Installing an access port isn't a necessity, but we do have them in stock on our site as well. Now there's really not much more we can cover with the install aspect here, so let's head into the shop and take a look at putting this intake on an S550.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet, a 7, an 8, a 10, a 12, a 14, and a 16 millimeter socket, a medium length extension, and a pair of pliers. Hi everyone, today we're installing the cold air intake on our EcoBoost Mustang, so let's get started with the uninstall first. First thing we're going to do is disconnect our air sensor here by pushing in on the release tab and just pulling it out. Then we're going to go ahead and disconnect this retaining push pin here just to get it out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and loosen up this clamp that holds the tube to the air box using our 7 millimeter socket. Now that we've got that loosened up, we can go ahead and pull the air tube off of the box. Now we got a clamp to remove down here and another one on the turbo. So let's go ahead and get those off. Now we've got a couple other things that we need to remove from the air tube down here, and then we'll disconnect the air tube from the turbo itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Now this first clamp that we're going to open up is about halfway down the tube towards the turbo, right in front of the engine. So we're going to go ahead and use our pliers and squeeze this spring clamp and open it up. And then we can go ahead and pull the hose up and disconnect it. Now right behind that is a PCV line. Let's see if I can get you a better view of it here. It's right here, right directly behind the one we just took off. and there's a gray clamp on this that holds it onto the tube itself. All you have to do is push that gray tab towards the back of the engine and lift up on the tube, and that'll disconnect the PCV line. Now we can disconnect the tube from the turbo. Now you notice right down here on the turbo, there's actually two clamps down here. What we're going to do is loosen up the one that's right on the turbo. So you're going to need a fairly long extension and your 7mm socket and your ratchet, and just go ahead and loosen up that clamp. And once you've got it loose, we can go ahead and pull that coupler off, and then we can go ahead and remove the tube. Now we can go ahead and slide our tube out of the engine compartment. And now we'll remove the lid for our air box. To do that, we're just going to flip this lever at the top and on the side, and then lift it up out of the way, and then remove the air filter. And with the rest of our intake system out of the way, we can go ahead and remove our box. To do that, we're going to remove this 10mm bolt here and then just lift it out of the way. So we'll use our 10mm socket to remove this bolt. Once it's loose, we just lift it out and we're done. Before we get to the actual install of our new system, there's a couple things we need to take care of first. One is to remove and transfer the air temperature sensor from the stock system to our new pipe, and then we'll attach our coupler to the end of it so we can attach it to the turbo. So to remove your sensor, all you're going to do is twist it counterclockwise until it unlocks from the system. And then just pull it straight out. And then you can see that there's got a fitting already on the new tube. And you'll notice that the tabs on the sensor, one is larger than the other. It has a corresponding slot in the new tube. So you just have to line those two up and then turn it in until it locks. Once you've got that in place, we can go ahead and install our coupler with the clamp. Now you do want to kind of position this so that you'll have access to it once it is installed. Now we're not going to tighten them up just yet. We want to leave some room in there for adjustment while we're installing the rest of the system. And then we'll put on the second clamp on the outside, and now we can go ahead and install our tube. Now we can go ahead and feed our tube down in front of the engine, over to our turbo, and slide our coupler onto the turbo. Now it is a little bit of a tight fit, so you'll have to work it back and forth a little bit. And if you've got some handy, some silicone lube might help as well. Now you want to make sure that that coupler sits all the way up against your turbo, so we've got a good tight seal. Now we're not going to tighten down our clamps just yet until we get the rest of the system installed. Now we can go ahead and install our lower heat shield. Now the system does come with some rubber trim that you can run along the outside edge here to try and seal it up. But since we're not doing a permanent addition to our vehicle, we're not going to put this on. But you can put it along the edge here and along the outside edge of the lid. But like I said, since we're not doing a permanent addition, we're not going to install that right now. We'll just go ahead and install our lower heat shield. So to install our heat shield, it's basically going to run along the edge of our frame rail there, and it's going to attach back up where the stock air box was. Now there's also another threaded hole down here that we really can't show you on camera just because of the angles and where it's located. But you'll notice that there's two big bolts here on the side. It's pretty much in line with this front bolt right on the side of the frame rail. So we're going to go ahead and slide our heat shield into place. And one thing that'll help you to try and figure out if you're lined up correctly is this upper bolt where the stock air box was at. We're going to go ahead and put a bolt and a nylon washer in there just to kind of hold it in place. Now the kit also comes with an M8 bolt that's about 1/2 inch long and a nylon washer. That's going to be the one. Now we can go ahead and install our lower bolt here. Try and line that up. Find the hole on the shield. And then with a little bit of adjustment, you should be able to find the bolt on the frame. And once you make sure that you've got that started, now that we've got it started, we can go ahead and tighten it down with our 12mm socket. Now we'll tighten the upper bolt with our 10mm socket. Now we can install our support bracket for our intake tube right here on the front of the engine using the supplied M12 bolts, flat washers, and lock washers. So we just slip that underneath our tube. Put one bolt in here. Put the other on the other end. And we're going to leave those loose for right now until we finish getting everything else put together. Now we can go ahead and install our air filter. Now to install our air filter, we're just going to slide the clamp over the edge of the air filter here, lift up on our tube, slide our air filter down into the slot, and then insert the intake tube into our filter. Make sure it's seated as far up as it can. And now we can go ahead and tighten that down using our 8mm socket. All right, now once you've got that tightened down, we can go ahead and reattach our air sensor connector. And now we can go tighten down the other end of our coupler on the other end of our tube. Now we tighten up our clamp on the turbo. And then we'll tighten the clamp on the other end of the coupler. Now this second clamp, it's hard to show you where on the camera because of everything that's in the way, but it's just right on the other end of that coupler that we just tightened down on the turbo. So we'll just go ahead and tighten that clamp down with our 8mm socket. All right, and now we can go ahead and go back to our bracket and attach that to the tube. Now we'll use the supplied bolt, flat washer, and lock washer to secure our tube to our support bracket. Now it's a little difficult to show this because it is at the bottom of the tube, but you'll be able to see it on your own. We'll go ahead and put that in there, and we'll tighten that down using our 14mm socket. And then we'll use our 16mm socket to tighten down the 2 bolts at the top on the engine. Now we go ahead and reattach our 2 hoses. First we'll attach our PCV hose. Just slip that over the fitting and push it down until it locks into place. Once you've got that installed, then we can install our blow-off valve hose using our pliers to open up that spring. And then we'll slip our hose down over the fitting. And release our clamp. Now we can go ahead and put the lid on our air filter and call it a day. Now the kit does come with these Allen head bolts and nylon washers, and that's what we're going to use 4 of these to attach to our lid to our lower heat shield. So we just put that lid on top, and then we've got 2 holes on the side here. One in the front, one in the back. Now with all of our bolts installed in our lid, we can go ahead and tighten them down using the supplied wrench. And that wraps up our review and install of the Cobb cold air intake for the 15 to current EcoBoost Mustang. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.